Okay, so I will just be shooting right away, and I hope that you can see my screen. Please confirm if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, cool. Okay, what can you see now on my screen? So that I confirm.
About yourself.
Okay, nice one. Okay, so I will just move right away, into the session. And thank you very much for joining. It's a pleasure having you guys here. My name once again is Olade Amons. I'm called the Strategist, and it's a pleasure having everybody here. And we'll just be running through some of the 10 top questions that you see in an interview. There are a long list of them. We have like 40 of them that are most common, that is most likely you will have heard that in one interview or the other. But the interesting thing is that as much as you hear that in most interviews, you realize that many people still make mistakes at providing response to that. And let me tell you the danger that does to many people. The danger it does to many people actually is the danger of the fact that people now, because of that, they are not able to build a lot of confidence in terms of how they now build themselves going forward. Because the moment you realize that you don't start well in an interview, you begin to have a lot of issues with your confidence going forward. And that is why it's good to spend a lot of your time to understand what are the context behind answering those kind of questions that you meet in an interview. For example, you see the first question here that will be staring at you, and I'll just be going into that. You realize that it's almost a question you get in every interview, but I will shock you that almost 7 to 10 of people that I've had interviews with, they just never score it very well. They never score it very well. And I will be talking about that like briefly with everybody in terms of what do you do to that. And it's the one I will spend like a deal of most of the time with. The reason is that the moment you don't get that first question well, the interviewer is not able to build on your experience, is not able to build on your competence, and the recruiter is just confused about you generally. And I'll be talking about some things on that. And I want you to, please, you can feel free to ask me questions like anytime on that. So, and the first question here that you always see in nearly all interviews, right? This one is like, you will meet it in all interview. Can you tell me about yourself? Or sometimes they will say, let us meet you. Can we meet you? Yeah, they'll say, Ola, can we meet you? And when you get this question is like the one that people feel most. Like I said, it gives a lot of problems. Why? There are some things that you don't do for this kind of question, and I'll be telling you about them. When you get this kind of question, tell me about yourself. It is not a time for you to talk about your experience that are not related to the role. You need to be extremely careful about that. For example, you're going for a role that has to do with project management, and you have done many roles in the past, maybe 7, 8 years ago, that has to do with customer service. And there's nothing connected at all to project management about that customer service role. In that particular Can We Meet You, there's no reason why you should go ahead and spend a lot of time in talking about your customer service role, because it's not directly related. And if at all you want to bring that particular role into that conversation, it must be out of a point of there is something specifically that you want to talk about that role. For example, I was a customer service person, and while I was there, because of my passion for project management, I managed the execution of this and this and this. Thank you very much. Now, that is not an unrelated work experience anymore. You could see, I was talking about my customer service role, and the role I'm being hired for is a project management role. Now, what I have just done is that I have connected my passion for project management, I've connected it to what we are trying to do, right? And many people know what they do. You want to go for a project management role, and they say, can we meet you? Just have 2 minutes to score the point of your life. And you are spending time talking about your customer service role, talking about your admin role, talking about your secretarial studies role, kind of different unrelated things. This gets a lot of people off the room completely. And I will spend time talking about what you should not do. Now, what is the second thing that you should not do about it is that, please, it is not a time to spend all your life reading all your life story. Please do not read your CV. Your CV is in the front of the recruiter already. They've seen your CV before they called you for that interview. Don't spend all the time reading your CV. It's a time to summarize what they have read on your CV. Summarize the punchy lines on your CV. It's not a time to read everything you have on your CV. Do not do that. Now, again, you will realize that the moment I spend time in answering this first question, you will realize that other questions that come from these top common questions, they will be answered already. Yeah? Now, what are the things that you should not do? During this summary point, don't explain everything that you have done throughout your career. It is not a time to begin to detail everything you've done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 things. No. Why? Give allowance for the recruiter. Don't overscore your point too early enough. Talk about your passion for project management. Talk about your passion for driving project metrics. Talk about your passion for managing teams. Let it stop there. Don't begin in that introduction to begin to talk about, oh, there was a time my team, I was managing a difficult team. No, that is not that time. It's a time for you to give your elevator speech kind of introduction. And I hope that this is very well understood by everyone. Now, what is the last thing I will talk more about that now is that do not also appear like you've crammed all the questions, you've crammed all the responses. Many people, you come to an interview, you say, okay, can we meet you, Ola? And somebody will just start with, oh, my name is this. I went to this school. Oh, I left this school by this year. Oh, by this year, I went to this. Everything looks like it's being programmed. Oftentimes, if we are like 2 or 3 in a room, we might just wonder, is this person reading something from the screen? And by the way, oftentimes we assume that some candidates actually are reading those things from their screen. Like, why do you have to write your introduction on a screen and you are reading that? And some people, even though they are not writing it, they appear like they are reading it. And let me tell you the reason. The reason is that, let me tell you from the non-verbal point of view. You will realize that there are things that if I ask you a question and you look down, and I ask you a question and you look up, there is one of them, and I want to ask everybody listening to me. When I ask you a question and you look up, and I ask you a question and you look down, which one of them has to do with you are creating the answer? Which one of them has to do with you are trying to recall the answer? Just pause a bit and think about it. Which one has to do with you trying to recollect something you have stored before, and which one has to do with you are trying to create something? And I want you to take note of that how you look when you're giving this kind of response also matters. This is why eye ball or eye contact becomes key. For example, if it's a virtual interview, it is a perfect time to look straight into your camera. Let me give an instance. If you look at my eyes now, I'm looking straight into your eyes. As I'm talking right now, I'm looking straight into your eyes. And if I'm talking to you, look at me now, you ask me, introduce yourself, then I say, then I begin like this. Oh, my name is Ola Diamonds, and you can see my eyes are already away from you. Then while I'm talking again, my eyes go this way again. Guess what? I'm not looking at you. You are losing eye contact. The moment that happens, you have already disconnected yourself from the recruiter. That's why eyeball to eyeball contact becomes important, and you now appearing very relaxed. Oftentimes, there are simple tricks. Oftentimes, people that fidget, I tell them and say, there's no crime in you holding a pen in your hand. If you like to have a pen, roll your pen in your hand, and it gives you calmness, hold your pen in your hand. Have a pen in your hand. Let them know that you have a paper in front of you. There's no crime in having an interview. In fact, every interview, you should have a note in front of you. So have your note in front of you and hold your pen. If your pen gives you confidence, hold your pen. Let me give an instance. For example, I like to hold things. If you look at me now, for example, I'm holding a charger in my hand. I just like to hold things because sometimes even when I'm talking, because I like to move in my hand, I like to have something in my hand. Oftentimes, I just hold my phone, and just holding my phone gives me a sense of I'm not alone. This is for me. For you, it might be a pen. For you, it might be your hand in the hair. For you, it might be like you need to pick what works well for you. For example, if I sit down on a table and the table is too high and I'm a bit low, if I'm talking to you, I lose my sense of composure. So most times when I sit down, I like my seat to be a bit raised. That is me. You have to know what that confidence is for you, and that introduction becomes very important. Now, you will see that I'm spending time to kill this number one, because the moment you lose this your shot that you are shooting this first time, you will never have the opportunity once again, because your killer shot is always this one. And many of you here who have gone for an interview, you realize that you missed this point out. Yeah? So please do not give too much details. Remember what we talked about. Don't sound like you have crammed your answers. Don't try to explain everything to them. Don't get them bored. Don't give them too much information. This becomes so important. And the last thing I talked about is that don't speak more than 60 seconds. Try to rehearse it very well in such a way that you are so used to it. For example, sometimes when I'm doing a YouTube channel, YouTube videos, or I'm doing something sometimes I wake up in the morning and I'm talking to myself, then my sons, they will look at me. Now, I think they are now used to it. I'll just tell them I'm trying to rehearse. Yeah, because sometimes you speaking to yourself repeatedly helps you a lot to build confidence, because you will realize that you use some words that you don't want to use again. You keep on correcting yourself and you build that behavior with that. And I want to recommend with you, maybe you are going to a bedroom, you are under your shower, spend that few seconds, that few minutes to introduce yourself again. When you're trying to like wipe your body, you're in front of your mirror, speak again to yourself again, try to introduce yourself again. When you are trying to dress up, introduce yourself again. When you finish dressing up, introduce yourself again. When you are driving and you're just alone in your car, play music and introduce yourself again. Do it again and again and again and again. You get to a point that something becomes like a punchline for you. For example, you will always hear my introduction. My name is Olade Amos. I'm called The Strategist. It's something I'm now very, very well used to, because I don't just say it in front of my video. I say it to myself. Anytime I'm just trying to talk, I'm trying to rehearse for something. Even the best of speakers out there, they rehearse. So spend a lot of your time to get used to that, because it will help you a long way. Now, let me kill this one finally. What are the things that you talk about, yeah, when you are trying to deal with things that has to do with telling people about yourself? Now, what are the things you pick on? Please talk about your journey. Talk about what brought you about your career. How did you start your career? Talk about things that has to do with what is related with your career, about the role. Why that role to you, right? It is very important. And like I said, the last thing that you do is that please practice in front of camera. Don't wait until the day of your interview, and that is now when you're now beginning to practice in front of the camera. Please do that way, way ahead of time. So let me give an example of a response to that. Yeah, you see, we killed this one. If you have any answer, if you have any question at all, please feel free to ask me. Let me give an example of a punchline here. For example, somebody asked me a question. Introduce yourself. Oh, thank you very much. Certainly, yeah. Not tell them and say, I hold a BS degree in BA from People Arm University, for example. When I graduated, I joined Max Limited as a marketing coordinator. During my time there, I successfully launched digital marketing campaign that increased website traffic by 40%. Now, seeking new challenges, I moved to another company as project manager. You could see there's a linkage. Don't just try to talk about your next role. Yeah. For example, it could be that I completed a major project on my first role and I wanted something different, maybe in a different sector. Then I moved to another company, an insurance company. Link your story together. For example, maybe you have worked in the bank before, then from a bank, you move to an insurance company. When you are telling your story and you are linking, oh, I worked here as digital marketing manager, and from there I moved here as a project manager, try to explain that when I completed this role, because of my passion for the insurance industry, particularly in the area of this and this and this, and the need for me to expand my role because I built some kind of project experience on my previous role. I wanted to be more challenged as a project manager. Then I moved to the next company. Yeah, you see, in that way, you have already explained a bit of why your transition. Yeah, for example, if you have stayed in a company for a very long time, for example, you spent like almost 8-9 years in a company, yeah, and you have done many roles in that company, you need to explain that. That, for example, if you observe on my CV, you could realize that I spend a lot of time in this company because I'm somebody who is intentional about where I work. I get money offers, but I just never move because I saw myself growing very fast in this company. The company was investing a lot in me. I was growing, and I had a lot of competence across board. Now I could speak efficiently for finance, for operation, for project, because I've done several roles in the company. I built competence. You could see in that way, you could see that we have found a way to be able to kill why you stayed long in the company. And I've killed it very well. That is an introduction. Ending this is like, notably, for example, I led a team that introduced a new software product ahead of schedule. That's exactly what you give and say it resulted in 20% increase in sales within the first quarter. And my diverse experiences, it has owned my leadership and problem-solving skills. And I'm excited to bring my expertise to the new opportunities. You could see that we have found a way to connect everything together in that brief interview. And I want to recommend to everybody here, please spend your time to do a 1-minute snapshot of yourself. Possibly, you know what you do? Read it, write it, preview with somebody, read it to yourself. And what I did many years ago that have helped me was that there was a time I did a lot of voice notes about myself, a lot of voice notes. And I had to listen to it, and I said, this one is not a punchline, it's a waste of time. Then I started removing some parts from my introduction until I got to a point in which I had the one that now became natural with me. I want to recommend to you, please spend a lot of time to improve yourself by doing a lot of rehearsal. That is number one question. You could see that I spend very good of time, a good deal of time here, because if you lose this one, you are going to lose a lot of confidence in you building yourself for the next role at your interview. So let's go to the second question. You always get this question. The question is that why are you interested in this role and company? Recruiter will always ask you that question. Then why this company? Why not another company? Why this role? Why not another role? Now, the kind of answer you give to this one is that they want to understand your thinking process. Why did you choose us? Maybe we are just one of those people. Yeah. Example you can give is that I'm highly interested in this role at your company due to the alignment between my skills and responsibility in the JD. You could state that because there's a bit of an alignment between your competence, which means you are saying, I see a lot of like overlap, right, of my skills, what I can do to what you guys want. Now the focus, or you now call specifically what that thing is. The focus on data-driven decision making, which I thrive in, matches my background in business analytics. For example, this role now is something you are trying to look for, right? For this my role, right? You're not trying to match the skill you have to what they say that they need. Moreover, your company reputation for innovation, this is not trying to say that I know about your company. As evidenced by your recent product launches, it also tells them that I've read about your product, that I've read also about, which is profiling that company very well. It resonates with my passion for contributing to forward-thinking teams. For instance, your recent product launch that increased market share by 15% is a testament to the dynamic environment that I would love to be part of. You see, you are also trying to polish the company, but you're not trying to say that they are good. You're trying to say, I have an information about you that aligns a lot with me. Many times when somebody asks you this question, why this role, why this company? What you are trying to test is your knowledge of that company. What information do you have about that company? And please do not give a broad information. Try to give something that is very specific. How do you pick that? Maybe we'll talk about in most of our subsequent sessions. How do you pick this one? You go online, check Twitter, check Instagram, check news. And one of the very easy way to do that today is that, for example, if I'm trying to recruit, if I'm trying to like get an interview with a particular company, I could have shown you here, but anybody can just do that. What you do is that go on Google and just type right away on Google. Just put that company's name, put plus and put news. For example, if I'm trying to do an interview for People Amp Limited, what we will just do is that just go to Google and type People Amp in inverted comma, then put plus, then put news in inverted comma. It will give you only news from that company. And you can now sort that news based on the most recent news about them. If it is linked to a particular role, maybe it's a product-based company, what you would do is that just type, for example, I will type People Amp Limited, put it in inverted comma, put plus and put complaints, right? You will see a lot of complaints about that company, the issues that they are facing currently in the market. If it's a very big companies, look at legal issues they've had. If it's a very big company, look at their sustainability kind of a plan. If it's a company, for example, in UK, in US, for example, many of them have something that has to do with diversity. You want to see their diversity goal, right? Now, having those information, they help you a lot to be able to give a perfect answer to this. Then you can now align yourself to that. I remember a friend of mine was trying to do an interview with somebody who, I don't want to give like too much details about that. And one of the information I gave to him was that I said, okay, the person you interview with is a global CEO. Cool. Now, what I did for him was I just said, okay, give me some days. I went online, checked the company online, checked their LinkedIn updates, checked what they have posted in the last 3 months to 6 months, went to their Twitter, check what they have posted in the last 6 months, then went to that role, people who have done that role in that department, went to go and check their LinkedIn profile, then I went to check what they post. You could see what I was doing gradually. I checked the company, now checked that person's department, went to LinkedIn, checked the people on LinkedIn, went to check people that are doing that role on LinkedIn, check what they have posted, then lastly, and I went to go and check that CEO and see what that CEO have posted, like or reposted over time. Guess what, guys? This person won for the interview. The interview was meant to be like a 30-minute interview. This person spent over 1 hour with this individual. Why? Because he just came back and felt like it was just like diamond, you pop everything like that pains this guy. I say yes, because everybody shares their pain or their pleasure online in one way or the other, whether by who they follow or by who they like, by who they tweet, by what they retweet. You will know what is dominant in people's mind. Most people, if not all. And that information is enough for you to be able to understand the kind of answer you can give to somebody, and the person will understand you. That is how you answer this kind of question. So I will just move to the next question. The next question is, can you describe a situation where you had to handle a challenging team member? Here is talking about how you manage resistance. This is where you bring in your leadership. Certainly in the project that I was working for in company X, one team member consistently missed deadline, affecting the entire project timeline. Now, to address this, I scheduled a one-to-one meeting, right? You don't call the person out, with them. During the discussion, I listened to their concerns, which revolve around workload management. You're trying to give excuse for them. Then I proposed a more realistic schedule, right? And provided assistance in prioritizing tasks. Through regular checking and support, their performance improved and we successfully met project milestones. Let me explain something to you here before I move on. If you have watched a video that I posted yesterday, and you can just go online and look for that video, and that video talks about the top 10 interview questions of business analysts. Just go online on our YouTube channel, on People Amp on YouTube channel. I posted that video just yesterday. You will realize that there's a contest here. Most people, when I teach them about the STAR kind of framework, people find it hard to be able to relate with it when they have to answer questions. However, because of my experience, when I work with Procter & Gamble, in my HR role, we use a concept because we like simplicity a lot. So we use a concept that we call CAR. And this CAR concept simplifies the STAR framework. And the CAR concept is all about context, action, results. If you look at every interview question in this way, STAR becomes simplified for you. Let me say it again: context, action, results. Now, you need to give the context. What makes that situation unique? What happened? What is the issue? Why is it a problem? You explain that. Then you now talk about, yes, this is the problem, and you can see why this is the problem. You go further and now explain. Now, this is the problem. This is where I found myself. This is the action I took. Now, after I took this action, these were the results that I achieved. If you look at this as an example, you will see the context here. If you look at this, you'll see the context here. The context here, for example, is one team member is missing deadline. That's the context. Now, and the effect of that is that it's affecting the project timeline. I've given you context already. Now, what did I do? I address it. How did I address it? I scheduled a one-to-one meeting, right, with them. I had a discussion with them. I listened to them. Now, I understood them, and the problem has to do with workload management. Then I proposed, which means I gave them a solution. Yeah, I gave them an assistance, right, in terms of this is a assistance I gave them to prioritize tasks, and through regular checking with them, to follow up with them, to support them. What did I do? They improved. That is the result that they delivered. Now, you can see from this particular point that this plays a major role, yeah, with everybody. Yeah, it plays a major role with everybody, which means that you can easily use this particular approach to answer all questions. This is what Procter & Gamble use globally. When I'm interviewing somebody, for example, on a role, yeah, that's all I use. You will realize that it simplifies STAR framework. Many people, you teach them about the STAR, people get confused. They are trying to think, what is the S, what is the T, what is the A, what is the R? But I just tell people, I say, don't get yourself confused. Just keep this in mind. Give me the context. Give me the action you took in steps and tell me the results you achieved. Yeah, was it positive? Was it negative? Do you have learning? Talk about it. And you will see that in all the answers that we're seeing here. Read it and you will see that. Anytime you don't see that in your response, you will realize that you have not given something complete. They will most likely not mark you very well on that particular question. If you spend too much time talking about action, you didn't talk about the context, they won't understand how big the magnitude of what you've done so far. So let's go to the next question. Now, the next question here is this. Next question says that, how do you prioritize tasks and how do you manage your time effectively? Right? It's testing out your leadership skill. Maybe the role has to do with managing multiple priorities. Right? Maybe you are trying to get hired for a project manager role, a scrum master role, BA role, a finance analyst role, even DevOps role. Most roles today, because of what you have to do several things. And sometimes you don't have all the time to do everything. And because of that, you don't have the time to do everything. Then you now need to learn how to prioritize your task. Now here, see where I started from. Now, here is that prioritization is very important. Yeah, you acknowledge it. It's very important for you to survive in the current world. It's very important. Now, this is what I use, right? I use this metrics to categorize what I have to do. You want to understand what kind of framework do you use. Please be careful. You are not in an interview room to school your recruiter. Many times somebody will say, if I'm talking about this matrix, that's urgent and important. Let me give an example of urgent and important. You're not coaching in an interview. Yeah? Assume they understand what you're saying, right? You have this matrix, you try to put things in matrix, the one that's urgent and important, the one that's important but not urgent. You might not even have to explain everything. Yeah? You not give an instance that there's a marketing campaign. You have to identify what is urgent and important task. You have to resolve a critical website issue affecting user experience. Simultaneously, you manage important but not urgent tasks, such as content creation. This method ensures that you focus on the high-impact activities while staying organized. You could see, you are trying to give them similar scenario. I have to create content. However, there's an issue with my website that has to do with users not having a good experience. Why should I focus on content creation, in which the goal is for my users, and I'm not focusing on the one that has to do with user experience? So I prioritize it because the one with user experience is urgent and important. For example, my user cannot log in to my page, and I have an e-commerce site. However, somebody is telling me and say, my blog page is not working, right? Of course, in that case, you want to prioritize which one is urgent and important, which one is urgent but not important, which one is important but not urgent. You want to put them in that kind of matrix. And it's not that in every day you have to bring up a quadrant and say, oh, what is the problem you just brought now? You now start putting them. They are the things that you do most times. You do them mentally to assess things per time. Over time, it becomes like default for you. And that's the way you answer this kind of question. But I'll just go, please, if anybody have any question, please, anytime, you can just drop them in the chat box. I can come back and give an answer to that. And I hope you're getting something very much valuable here. For those who are just joining, what I wanted to do is that please, before you join, so I try to ask questions about where people are joining from. Please just drop in the chat box. What do you do? What's your name? Where are you connecting from? And what are you hoping to get from this session? And I hope that you will be able to get that at the end of this conversation. For example, the fifth question is that, can you provide an example of a situation whereby you demonstrated leadership skills? This one, anybody in this room should have like minimum 3 relevant examples where you have demonstrated this. I would like to say something here, right? And what I'd like to say here is that, please, for everybody here, take note, all your answers in an interview does not have to be workplace-related answers. It does not have to be. Let me give an instance. I remember currently I work as an enterprise agile coach in UK, in Nottinghamshire. And I remember one of my interview, I was asked a question about my leadership skills. And I gave an example of when I was a student union president in school, and we had a serious issue that could have led to the death of students. And I narrated a story of the context of why it was important, because we could have lost minimum of 3 students. And I explained what I had to do to engage stakeholders. I had to stipulate in the night. I had to go to get across to the security agency to speak with them. I have to go and meet some of my union leaders to speak with them, to appeal to them, to now have a very early in the morning kind of a meeting that was very, very well unplanned and very, very hard. And we're able to salvage the situation. Then I explained what happened afterwards. This is actually what happened to me during that particular period. Guess what? This is like many years after. But I had to explain that because it is something that was that very big, because it has to do with saving lives. Things could have gone wrong. Yep. Now, your answers don't have to be what you have done in the place of work. If what you have done is something that is very big, please talk about it. Talk about it right away. Like, just bring it up. Right away, bring it up. It does not have to be exactly related to that role, because now you are asking me about leadership skills. It could be anywhere I demonstrated, but please make sure that that story is a story that they want to hear again and again and again. The person will feel a lot of connection with your story. So I just want to point that. Now, what is the answer to this kind of question? Now, of course, give an answer. In a volunteer kind of project which I did, now, what did you do? You led a team that was tasked with organizing a charity fundraising. Now, during the critical meeting, conflict of opinion arose regarding the event format. To ensure alignment, you have to facilitate an open discussion, encouraging each team member to voice their ideas. What are you trying to do here? You're trying to show listening. You're trying to show diversity and inclusion. Diversity here does not mean color, does not mean ethnicity. It's all about valuing everyone's differences. Some teams are diverse but not inclusive. You are trying to show that here as a leader. By actively listening, mediating with differences, and incorporating the best aspect of each suggestion, we devised an innovative event that exceeded fundraising goals. You could see this has to do with fundraising. It might not even have to do with the specific work in which you have done. If you have excellent kind of an answer, please talk about it, right? And please try to make sure that you look for a kind of storyline that shows anybody that this guy will kill this role. If we give this job to this guy, we can go and sleep. Let me give an instance. Somebody asked me one day during an interview, and I try to do interview from time to time, and I want to recommend to everybody here, please be loyal only to your career, not to any company at all. I want to say it again. Let me say it again so that anybody can hear me. Let your loyalty be only to your career, not to any company. Yeah, the only thing a company owns you is to give your best to your last moment that you are in that company. Any day you are still a staff of a company, you must be your A+. Like, I don't know how to explain, maybe A asterisk. People that know me know that one with me. My game is always A+ to every company I work for. However, my loyalty till the end of time is to my career. So if you have gotten a job, no matter how stable your job is, please be on the line. I'm saying that not because I know, but by the way, I spent over 10 years in Procter & Gamble. However, in that 10 years that I've spent in Procter & Gamble, I was always doing an interview from back to back to back to back to test myself in the market. If you don't do that, what happens to you is that you will lose touch. You lose touch of yourself. Let me just drop that to anybody here who is listening. Now, you're able to bring that situation. Somebody asked me a question one day during an interview. I was talking to one CEO, name disclosed, and asked me a question like, when have I made a tough decision that was beyond me? And I told a story to him when I had to make a decision sometimes back. I don't want to give the details. Somebody was at a point of nearly dying. In fact, we got to know after the doctor diagnosed and worked on the person. My team member called me that day. They were in Cairo and they called me and they said, we need to do this. And I needed an approval to get it done. But because it was like life-threatening, I just told my team member, I just said, go ahead and do it, right? Then my manager was even flying that place. I think it was in the head, right? And I just told him, just go ahead and do it. Now, when the doctor got to this person's situation, they realized that this person would never have survived, like even waiting for days to fly this person back to Nigeria, right? And I told this that situation, and it was like, I said, now, so I've come to learn, and I tell my team, if something has to be done, please get it done. Yeah. And that is my principle because I've seen where it has saved lives. Yeah. So, and that is just the way to talk about it. People can talk about like different, but please make sure that you have your kind of killer story. Yeah. And you'll always have it. All of us will always have it one way or the other. Always look for the story that resonates a lot with you. Number 6 question: how do you handle pressure and tight deadlines? This one, similar to what I've talked about. For example, under pressure, I remain composed and organized. You want to show that. Yeah, under pressure, I remain composed and organized. For example, in a product launch project that you work on, People Aren't Limited, unexpected technical issues came up that has to do with data migration. What I had to do was that I reorganized the task based on priority and assign additional resources to critical areas, by speaking to management and the sponsors. By managing the resources effectively and focusing on problem solving, we successfully address the issues, ensuring the successful launch on time. You can see the context, the action, and the result that we achieve in that particular scenario. Look for these kind of stories that resonate a lot with you. And if you like, you know what to do. You can also tweak this for yourself and you're good to go. You get yourself out there. Number 7, we are almost done. Describe a time when you had to adapt to a change in a work environment. This change could be anything. Please, in your kind of story, talk about different kind of change. It could be change in terms of the change your role. It could be change in terms of there's no fund for a project, or your manager change, or they have to do organizational reshuffling. It could be change in terms of you trying to relocate or move from an hybrid mode to a fully remote job, a remote job trying to move to a fully resident kind of a job. It could be any kind of change at all. Please, this is now the time to have those kind of, so look back and see where you have had to manage change. All of us listening to me right now, you have had that situation in your career. Example of this is at People Aren't Limited, for example, a change in leadership led to a shift in project priorities. Could imagine the finance director who was interested in an application we are trying to build. Maybe it's an expense report, an expense platform we are trying to build. There was a finance director who was interested in that project. He left the company, or he went to another role, and you were tasked with pivoting an ongoing project to align with the direction. You swiftly assessed the situation, communicated the changes to the team.
Hello, please, this Bisola, where is Bisola? I can't find her anywhere. She, I used here today. I miss.
Who is that? Irene. Okay, cool. Yeah, apologies for that. So let's move on that. So what happened is that then you are able to do what? You are able to simply assess the situation, you embrace the change, you foster the team collaboration, and you successfully restructure the project to achieve its goal. Now, this is a big thing that affects many projects. Leadership. When leadership changes, what happens is that there's always a change in priority, funding, resources, commitment to a project. And how did you respond to that? These are the things you want to provide like an answer to. So we go straight to number 8. How do you handle conflict in a team? Yeah, please, conflict kind of a question must be a kind of question that you need to have an answer to, right? Conflict kind of question should be a question you have an answer to. Please create an answer for conflict. People will always ask you, particularly if you are trying to go for some roles like business analyst, In fact, almost every role, I don't want to say it's more pronounced to one role or the other. For example, if you're a scrum master, an agile coach, you will, in fact, your job is to resolve conflict. So not having conflict means that you don't have a job. You are going to be resolving conflict. So you need to have answers to how do you resolve a conflict. An example to this one, in this case, is that now what you do to resolve a conflict are these, like you resolve in open communication and you empathize. You can't resolve a conflict without understanding things from the other person's side. Now, for example, at the startup, different opinions emerged regarding the marketing strategy. Yeah, some people felt like we should market this way. Some people felt like we should do organic marketing. Some people felt like we should do inorganic marketing. To address these, I organize a team meeting to allow each team member to voice their concerns. Yeah, by actively listening, acknowledging different viewpoints, and finding common ground, we created a unified strategy that leveraged everyone's strengths, resulting in a more effective marketing campaign. Let me give you a tip here. And this tip is going to be golden to anyone listening to. Let me give you a cheat. There's a very big cheat that you can always use, particularly for virtual interview. Now, please, if you have a work desk in your home, or you have a work desk where you do an interview, I want to recommend with you, please have post-it notes. Let me give you a cheat. Have a post-it note. Yeah, not a post-it note where you read from, but a post-it note that bring up or bring out what you have in your head. Let me give an instance. Now, I can have a post-it note where I have conflict, and in that conflict, I just have empathy, open communication, right? And strength, and that is all. Different, I just put those keywords there. Conflict, open communication, empathy. You just have keywords on that post-it note. You just have it there. Guess what happens? The moment somebody asks you a question in an interview, why does he ask you that question? If you look at your post-it, it tells you right away, and it refreshes your mind, your storyline about conflict, and some keywords that are very much important. Because if you are resolving a conflict, the place of open communication, the place of listening, the place of empathy comes to play. You want to use keywords. You don't want to explain and keep on using big grammar without using the right technical jargon that helps you kill a particular topic. So I want to recommend to you, have post-it notes, right? Now, why I said have post-it notes is that the more you have these answers more visual in front of you, the more you work on your screen, even outside your interview, the more you get used to all those kind of your answers. Leadership, I have a leadership thing there. Let me give an instance. For example, somebody asked me something about leadership. Right away, I have 5 things in my head. It's already in my head. In fact, it's one of my YouTube videos one of my videos that will be coming soon. I have 5 things in my head: envision, enable, energize, empower. I have it right away as a kid. 5 of them are in my head right away. You ask me something on an interview right away, I have it in my head. Why? I'm so used to it. I've studied it so much that I've become part of me. And I have storyline for each one. Envisioning, I have a story for it. Empowering, I have a story for it. Enabling, I have a story for it. Energizing, I have a story for it. Execution, I have a story for it. And the more you do this, the more you get yourself a lot into the game. And I hope it really makes sense. A cheat for people. I think I have questions here. Let me just go and read that question. Somebody said, as a product designer, thank you very much for asking that question. Please, you can send your question to me privately if you want to ask everybody in the open. Somebody asked a question. Somebody said, as a product designer, how best do I answer when asked if I have any of my design that has failed? Is it flagged or sealed or that has failed? I don't know what that person said. Maybe failed. Okay, let me take it if the person says failed. Now, if somebody asks you a question about, where you have failed before, let me even take that question from a broader point of view. When I say I don't, it sounds like as good. Okay, when I say I don't, it sounds like as good as my design is not worth commitment. So I need a better way to answer such question. Okay. I think I understand what the person is trying to say. So, for example, you're a designer and you go to an interview and somebody asks you a question that can you talk about a situation whereby you have designs and your designs failed, or you have designs and your design did not fly, the team did not accept your design. Yeah, what kind of answers do you give? Yeah, or somebody asks you a question that maybe you're a BA, you have a design that you did, you have a BRD that you did, and when the developers took it up, you realize that it's just not detailed enough for them to develop that solution. What did you do? How did you handle it? Number one is that, what is this one testing? Let's go back to, you must understand what is being tested here. And whoever asks this question, separate yourself from your failing moments. What they are asking here is that, how do you deal with difficult situations? How do you deal with your failing moments? Because as good as I am today, I make mistakes every day. I make mistakes in some area of my life, maybe once in a while, but I still make mistakes. The best of doctors today still make mistakes on patients. Players that play football, Messi still loses penalties. Ronaldo still loses penalty. So no matter how good you are, you will always fail once in a while. Now, what do you have to say? One thing that you have to say, right, in this situation is that, yeah, like when you got the feedback about this, yeah, it was something that was not like, so you didn't take it so good. You feel very bad about it, right? Because you spend countless number of hours for you to get that design out. You spend a lot of sleepless nights to put yourself into that. You listen to everybody and you felt that you have done your best very well. Now, what did you do? You took it up and you went back to the team to seek for feedback from the team. And interestingly, it could be your solution architect gave you feedback. You could say your BA gave you feedback. You could say you have to go to the sponsor. You could also create a story and say you got to a situation where you realized that there was actually a critical user that was a major stakeholder to the project that did not listen to, did not take like an input from the person. And you found out that there was a user that needed to know a lot about this. And you went back to this person, took your feedback from this person, took the person's input, and you realized that the biggest problem with it has more to do with the template, right, that drive that. So, and you took that feedback, you went back, you review your design system, you change the template, you change some kind of an arrangement, and you presented it back to the team. You can even create more stories and let the recruiter know that, in fact, you got to a point whereby the team was nearly going ahead with an alternative design. However, when you brought your design late in the project, the team looked at it and it became the best in class standard systems for the application for that company going forward. So I failed. I felt very bad. However, I took a challenge on it to do better. And what I did better became a standard for everybody to reapply from. You could see, you have turned a failing moment to become a winning moment by the stories that you tell. Let me tell you this one right away. I don't know who I was talking to, maybe like 2 hours ago. You can be as good, 80% good. When you go for an interview and you present yourself as 30% good, you are going to be marked as 30% good. That is different between packaging and content. Your packaging in an interview attracts recruiter to say yes to you. It's your content that let them stay and say, let me stay with this, my yes. If your package, how you present your storyline is not good enough, forget your content. Your content is as good as nothing. If you watch the interview the YouTube video I did, right, you will see me talk about it, yeah? No matter how good, iPhone is beautiful, but it comes in a lovely pack. Yeah, Samsung phones are beautiful, but they come in a lovely pack. You can't go for an interview and say you are good enough if you don't package yourself. That is how your power of storytelling comes to play. But let me clear anybody's doubt here who is listening to me. Please take note of this and take note of it very well. Being a good communicator has nothing to do with your personality or being an introvert or an extrovert. You have been told a lie. Everyone has a skill of communication. Being shy is not a trait of an introvert. It's a personality flaw. It's a character trait. It's an issue. It's a flaw. It's not personality. There's no personality called I am shy. Like, I'm shy means that you lack confidence. An introvert does not have low confidence. An extrovert does not have high confidence. No. Having low confidence has nothing to do with personality. It has a lot to do with your life experiences. So if you are shy, if you lack confidence, it's not because you are quiet. It's not because you have few words, right? And I can give you many kind of an example into that. Master communicators are not all extroverts. You can go and check many history books. The best orators of all time are not all extroverts. There are seriously introverts among them. Example of that is Barack Obama. He's not the extroverted guy, but the wife is more extroverted than him. But he's a better, fantastic communicator. Samadi Yemi today, one of the best teachers today on leadership today. He's a purely introvert and he communicates very well. So let me clear anybody's doubt here who says, oh, you know, my personality. No, that is not your personality. That is the shell you have created for yourself. So you have to break free from that shell by constant practice. Build your muscle that you can break free of what you call shy or lacking self-confidence. Put yourself out there. You realize that there's nothing about it. Be confident to sell yourself. In fact, let me use the right word. Be proud to sell yourself. It's better to be proud to sell yourself than for you to be too humble and you don't sell yourself. Trust me, nobody will buy your market. Let me just move forward on that. Now, the last two questions, I'll just move on that. Can you provide an example of a time when you identify an opportunity for process improvement? This one, please, anybody here going for a role, pay attention to this. For example, at a certain company where I worked for, I saw a delay, right, in how budget for a project approval is being done. It delays, maybe it takes sometimes 6 weeks, 8 weeks for it to be. Sometimes people forget about it. So analyze the workflow. Then I proposed a digital approval system. You could say I use the Power App. You could say any kind of thing that you, maybe an Excel system, in Microsoft Forms, anything that you did that streamlined the process by automating notification and approval. So which means when somebody raises a request, somebody gets a notification, you call some people together, developers together to work on this. And by implementing that solution, you reduce the approval time by 50% and it enables projects to commence more efficiently. In fact, you can go further and say, going forward, this system was now used to manage change management because there was also a problem with change management. You could see, I have built on top of that story. This is why studying, looking at storyline, being well schooled now really come to play. Now, let me go straight to the final question of the day. How do you handle feedback and constructive criticism? In fact, some people can tweak this. If they are bad guys, they can tell you and say, how do you manage when you get a feedback that you don't like? Maybe somebody is being harsh on you. How do you manage that? But in this case, how do you manage feedback that comes to you? And when somebody criticizes you, now you talk about it. For me, let me give an instance. This one is the general. For me, I tell somebody, when somebody asks me this kind of question in an interview, I tell them and say, well, you know what? Well, I never liked feedback when I'm giving feedback. And it is true, nobody liked feedback. But feedback is good for me. So the moment I hear a feedback, I don't jump up because I get the feedback. That is being real. I don't know anybody that likes feedback. You give me feedback, then I'm excited, I'm jumping up because you gave me totally negative feedback, right? You feel bad a bit. It's like being given an injection. Feedback is like an injection. It's good for your body, but nobody's excited to take an injection, but it's good and it heals your body, right? It's good for you. However, I view it as an opportunity for you to grow. Right, so you're not talking about in your previous role, this is actually what happens to you, right? The performance review, I receive a feedback about how you present. Now, to address it, you enroll in a course and you're not going to look for opportunities for you to be able to present with different teams. Now, by leveraging on this feedback, it helps you to improve and you transform this weakness to a strength. You now became very confident as a presenter. In fact, you can go further and say, you even use the opportunity to now begin to create a community in your organization whereby you now coach people to now become power speakers. That is now the way you can put the icing on the cake. In fact, you could paint other kind of stories around that based on your life experience. Yeah, these are the 10 questions we are taking for this session. Yeah, and I'm sure that this must have benefited you one way or the other. I would like to tell you, and please pay attention to this all the time. And please, if you want to maybe have a soft copy of this, then you can drop us a message, right? You can drop a message, for example, to Bella, BELLA at peoplearm.io. She's going to send you a soft copy of this. Maybe you just want to have a reference to this at all. And please, if you have a friend and you want them to watch this video, it'll be posted on YouTube, like in like few hours to now. You can reference them to come and watch this. And because you're part of this mailing group already, we'll be sending more messages to you for the next session because you're already part of this community. And if there are questions that you'd like us to take, please send that question to Bella, Bella, at peopleamp.io. Then she will pass the information across. Then we'll take that in a subsequent kind of session. And I would like to say to you once again, and this is one thing that I bring to everybody and say, guys, let me say it, and I want to say it loud and clear. Please, your dreams are valid. This is our slogan in People Arm. Your dreams are valid. Let nobody say your dreams are not valid. Let nobody question what you have. Your dreams are valid. However, this best of dreams that you have can only happen to you when you stay awake. Wake up and make that dream happen. Don't spend too much time talking about this dream. Spend time to work it out, and you can live life without borders. We are not here to just coach you to get a job. We are here to coach you to get a job to live the kind of life you want to live. Nobody likes to work. You want to live this life and enjoy this life, and it is possible for you to do that. Many people out there are doing the same thing. We have schools running. Yeah, right away, please go ahead, enroll in our school. In the next 3 weeks, we have a school running. We are running business analysis school. It's going to be running. They're going to start in September 9th. That's the second weekend next month. Please enroll in our school. We have a BA school running. We also have a Scrum Master school running. Particularly to give you an information, we offer certified Scrum Master school by Scrum Study. We have a partnership with Scrum Study, and we also coach you also to write your PSM1. If you want to write your PSM Professional Scrum Master from Scrum, right? And we have those things available for you. And we don't just teach anybody for certification. For example, if you attend our BA school, they will prepare you to write your CBAP exam. We don't just prepare you to write your exams. We prepare you to have that experience, to have this mindset change. And what you are benefiting here is also what you benefit more as students in our community. And to cut this thing short, that we don't take much of the time, I want to thank you guys for coming. And for those that came like very early, I want to say thank you very much for coming very early. If you have any question, please go to our page, on YouTube. That is People App on YouTube. Subscribe to that page and hit that bell on that page, because we have many content in stock that will be dropping in coming days. We have a lot of shorts that will be dropping. We have a lot of material for you. And please, I want to beg of you, if you are interested in being a business analyst, we did a video, 2 videos, part 1 and part 2, right? I can beat my chest and I will tell you, if you know anybody that wants to become a BA, go and watch those 2 videos. If you can't watch those 2 videos, you are not qualified to be a business analyst. In fact, if you want to enroll in our school and you have not watched those videos, then you are not fit enough to get into our school. You can go to any other kind of school. Those 2 videos, they gave you extensively details of what you need to learn as a business analyst. Just go and watch those 2 videos. There's a part 1 and part 2 of those videos, right? It talks about the basis of BA. It talks about salaries of BA, the roles of BA in different industries. They are tied to different industry, the sacrifices you have to pay to become a BA. It talks about everything from beginning to the end, that you don't need to ask anybody any question anymore, whether this BA thing is for you or not. And I also use that video to correct a lot of negative impression out there. People think BA is IT business analyst. Nah, that is only 10% of BA. There are a lot of roles to do that BA does out there. So guys, once again, thank you very much for joining. And I would like to say, have a lovely day and see you at the top. My name once again is Olade Amons. I'm called The Strategist, and we'll see you at the top because that's where I'm gonna be. Please go to our page and like our page and follow our page. Okay, so thank you very much. Please, if you have any question, please drop it for us on our page and we'll be there to answer you on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Twitter, and also by email. I don't know if anybody have any question to ask. If anybody have any question to ask at all, if you have a question to ask, maybe you can have your hands up. I can just bring you up. If you have any question to ask, let me just give like maybe 1 minute for anybody who have any question to ask. Okay, go ahead. Echo, go ahead.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for an amazing session. It was really really educative. So I really want to ask this question. If you are a designer and you are asked, please take me through your thought process, how do you go about it?
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry. So thank you very much for asking that question. So if you're a designer and somebody asks you a question that as a designer, take me through your thought process. The designer thought process is very easy. Yeah, if you're a designer, there's something that you must do, that you must have as a designer. And there's no other way to, in fact, as a BA, we teach it in our BA school. Yeah, as a designer. Your thought process as a designer is that you must be a big design thinker. Thought process of a designer is this. Number one, a designer empathizes to understand the user. And there are many ways a designer empathizes. A designer empathizes through interview, through shadowing, through trying to understand the customer, then through taking a lot of input. It could be one-to-one, it could be observing people or trend or insight. That is the first thing you do. Now, the second thing a designer does is to now define. From your empathy, you define, right? Now, who are your users? What do they like? How do they like it? And what do you use as a designer? That's why a designer uses something that we call user persona. That is why a BA is a designer, but a designer is not a BA. Yeah? Now, because designing is not just about physical kind of product designing. There could be, we are trying to redesign our customer service experience. That is designing in the real sense of it. So now you define that second level, which means you want to understand the user journey. You want to understand the roles of the user. You want to understand the pain point of user. You now begin to use something that we call empathy mapping, right? To define the user persona, to understand who my users actually are, their pain point, to understand how they think, what they say, when they say it, where are they, to define that. The designer goes to the third stage that we call the ideation. Now, the ideation for a designer is when a designer begins to look at things that has to do with how do I now prioritize, how do I now design? That is now, the ideation is not the time that designer now begin to design, which means now begin to put things in the right place. Should I arrange the room? If it's a redesigning of a room, if it's a mobile application, where should I put a login screen? Should I use an image? What kind of color should I use? Not begin to ideate that. Not begin to put an idea into a room. One of the tools you use there is now where you now begin to use what is the must have, what is could have, what it should have, you know, for each of these users. Now, what color do they like? How do they like the color? Should I use a flat image? Should I use a 3D image? You now begin to do that from the ideation point of view. Unfortunately, majority of designers out there who think designing is about Figma, you know what they do? You give them a job, they go straight to ideation, right away straight to ideation. I don't want to talk about that. Then you now go to level of prototyping. Prototyping means that prototyping is big English. It means that I give my user a representation of what they are going to see. I'm trying to show to them, to demo to them, to give me feedback before I spend a lot of money to now build a big system. That's what we're not talking about. We are using high fidelity prototype, low fidelity prototype, sketching. It could even be sketching. It could even be you on an Excel sheet trying to put boxes on an Excel sheet. It could be you using draw.io. It could be you using any kind of tool. I don't even care about the tool at this stage. You prototype to show demo to the user, and the last part in which you now go to test. You prototype, you now go to the user and test it and say, can you look at this screen? What do you think about it? The user look at it and feel like, okay, I like the color, I don't like the color. I like, can you change, can you move this to this, to this, to this, to this? That's why you see some designers out there, they will tell you they have a product that's fantastic. You now ask them, how many users have reviewed it? They will say, we've been working. You have been working on something for 1 year and users have not tested it. Then you are not designing at all, you are doing something else. Maybe you are doing I don't know the English to use there. You are not doing designing. Did I help?
Yes, you nailed it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. That is the designer thinking process. Okay, so let me check once again if anybody hand is up. So nobody hand is up currently. Guys, thank you very much. Have a lovely time. Bye.